a discussion with the residents of Century Mill Estates. They had requested this, so we've got about 15 minutes to, so go ahead, guys.
Yeah, Mark, thank you very much. This is Vince LaRosa, 73 Old Stone Circle. And I apologize, I'm traveling, so I'm voice only. But we do have several residents. I see that more are coming on. So since we only have 15 minutes, I think we can sort of get right to it. And Valerie, thank you for giving us this time today. I know you're hopping in, but I'm sure you've heard over the course of this last multiple years, we've really been dealing with the same problem, and that's the builder, Andy Benenson. The challenge is, and I think what we're really concerned with, and the reason we asked for the time tonight is, you know, Mark, we've been in the same position year in and year out, right? I mean, the only thing that's consistent is that Andy is not able to complete what is requested from him from the town. The challenge that we face is we understand that that's holding up the roads being approved and the town taking over the roads, but that doesn't affect Andy, right? That's only really affecting the town paying citizens, not the one man who refuses to pay the taxes that's being requested from him. So I'm sure you can understand the challenge that we're facing here. We understand that the situation that you've put in place that needs to happen and that needs to occur, and Andy needs to check off every box, but he is refusing to do that. He's also, it sounds like, refusing to even speak to your planning board when he's being requested to do so. So at this point, we're really the ones being held up. And, you know, we spoke about this last year, Mark and board, and we said, you know, we take it up again next year if we were in the same place, and, you know, here we are. So really, ultimately, what we're looking to do is understand the best path forward for all of us, so that the tax-paying citizens can, you know, take full advantage of the benefits of the town and move forward from this once and for all. Because I think we can all agree that that's what we all would love.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, there's a few different items that kind of all kind of get lumped together here. So I just want to kind of untangle it a little bit here. So there's one of the conditions for road acceptance is that taxes be fully paid. I know some number of the lots in phase one are in land court or in foreclosure or whatever to cover that. I don't know what the status of that is. It's beyond my pay grade here, which is volunteer. So everything's beyond my pay grade. So the next item from the planning board's perspective is, and this is actually holding up several residents from getting certificates of occupancy, is as part of the subdivision, Andy agreed to donate a certain number of lots or their cash equivalent for affordable housing. We've had one lot that was appraised, and he gave us money for that. After the fact, he decided he didn't like the appraisal, but and he's due to provide a second lot or appraisal and money based on that.
Mark,
and he's been doing that for several years.
Trouble hearing because I can't hear Mark at all.
Oh, yeah, I
can hear him fine.
No, I can hear him fine.
Okay, got it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the affordable housing piece is another part that and Andy owes some money on. Since the town already has liens on most of the lots in phase one, there's not a whole lot of other leverage that we have against him, you know, on getting that resolved. And then there's a handful of kind of punch list items that he needs to take care of, which I think were relatively minor, and I think there's money in the bond to cover that work. You know, he's got to clean out the catch basins and remove some silt fencing, things like that, all of which are relatively minor. But the taxes and the affordable housing are the two big things that are kind of holding the whole thing up at the moment.
So yeah, the residents are familiar with those items. Those are the same items that we went over this time last year. Everyone's quite aware of them.
Well, I mean, this time last year we just finished up, or we were putting together or I think we finished up the paving piece of it finally, but So we haven't talked to town council specifically about the bond language for Century Mill. But one of the things one of the pieces of information we did get back from him was that the money that's held in bond can only be used for what it was put into bond for, which would be the site work with, the roads and drainage. So we could not take that money and use that to satisfy the affordable housing or to satisfy his taxes.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Mark, can I say something? John Ballas, Century Mill. I live on 21 Center Circle. I totally appreciate where you're coming from, and then actually the board has been very flexible and understanding and trying to get us to the spot we're at. I get your point of what you're trying to say. That the question I would have as a resident here is the bond has been reduced so far to try to accommodate Mr. Benson already beyond the point that you felt was normal as far as percentages against the overall project. But it sounds like there's enough bond money to complete the checklist of items minus the taxes and affordable housing pieces, which should be sufficiently covered by the liens on the 14 lots that he owns. So I would hope, at least as a resident here, that the town could move forward with whatever is needed to take the bond, complete the tax tasks to take over the ownership of the land, and handle Andy as a bankruptcy client and take over his properties. We've been held like hostage here from Mr. Benson for years now, paying $30,000 plus for plowing year in, year out, no mail services, et cetera. So I would hope that the town would take action to protect, 45 homeowners that are paying nearly $1 million a year in taxes, to take the minimal. You even said it here. There's not a lot of punch list items to complete on the road. It says past taxes and his affordable housing items, and we've been waiting for 2 months for him to even just give us an assessment on a single lot. He's not doing anything. You can acknowledge that. So we're looking to the town, to the planning board specifically, to come up with a plan where they can protect us to move forward with the road acceptance and move Andy into some sort of lien bankruptcy that you've already started, and just use the land as that's the payment for the past dues of taxes and affordable housing payments that are required based on the original plan with the town.
And this is Tim Lacy. Just to add to that, if that can't be done now, the question from the residents would be why? Like, what would be the criteria for the town to step in and complete this if it's not what has already transpired?
I think we've gotten some guidance from town council on a different project. We need to have him look at specifically here.
Yeah, Mark, if I can just jump in here. I think one of the things we want to do, and Jonathan, I appreciate your comments and everything. Where we're coming from. I think one of the main things we want to do is understand what are the ramifications, what are the step-by-step processes that the town needs to go through in order to pull that, understanding that there's more than just construction items at stake here, and how do we separate them? So I think we as a board would need to reach out to town council, get comments back for them. While we reached out to them previously on a separate project, they're different projects and they have different conditions associated with them. So we just need to get an understanding for them. What are the specific step-by-step items for that? And I just don't think that that's happened at that point. Is that correct, Mark?
I believe that's correct, yeah. And so assuming, just as a hypothetical, assuming the town council said, yes, this project is in a position where, the town can pull the bond. The bond was over 100,000, so it'd have to go to town meeting. We'd put on the warrant for the May town meeting. Assuming the town votes to do it, we would. I'm just kind of outlining the rough steps here. I don't have and I'm sure I'm probably going to forget some. Assuming the town votes to approve that, we pull the bond. We then need to hire general contractor or probably put out to bid to get somebody to oversee the continuation, the finishing the project out.
I think there's multiple steps there. I think to answer to John and
I'm just kind of trying to lay it out just to set kind of, but even, we put it out for bid, we get the bids back, we hire somebody, you're realistically at this point, you're looking at, minimum road, minimum would be probably the, May 23 town meeting would be the absolute soonest that, this could come up for road acceptance.
I will, if I can just add.
Yeah, please do. Please correct me here.
No corrections. I do want it to be stated. I think that there is the understanding that we should review what steps we can take and try to start taking those steps if if it seems appropriate, understanding that it may be years, but I feel like the board, in past discussions I've had with members, there's absolutely the understanding that beginning these steps now, will help in the long run, and starting to ask town council these questions, to ask for guidance now, is going to help us so that we're not starting a 2-year timeline in another year. And I think that there's
it'll be a 12-year timeline. Ray St. Martin, 37 Mill Pond Road. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you guys
I'm not quite finished.
Okay, so, I need to speak when you're done. If you could let me know, thank you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add that one piece of guidance that I think that Mark and Danielle may have said, maybe I missed this, was that we do need to understand the definition of abandonment and what it truly means to have ceased work on a project. It may be that unfortunately that threshold has not yet been met, and that will kind of handicap the actions of the board.
So Ray St. Martin, 37 Mill Pond Road, and I apologize. You guys are my third iteration of a planning board since I've lived in the town. To put things in perspective for you guys, and I apologize to the residents because they've heard this probably a number of times already. My oldest daughter was in kindergarten when I moved into this home. She's now a freshman at Neshoba Regional High School. She's gone 10 years without being able to walk down to the end of her driveway or the end of her street to get a birthday card from her grandparents. 2 of her grandparents have since passed away. You guys, the town hasn't so much as moved a snowflake for anyone in that neighborhood. No one's received a tax abatement to my knowledge. I've paid $193,000 in property taxes, another $2,000 for a post office box, and increased homeowners association dues because the town won't plow the roads. So I hope you can understand our collective frustration, where we feel like, why hasn't this been done already? And you could go back to planning board meetings 5-6 years ago and just hit play, and it's the same conversations with different dates attached to them. We know Andy, we know what we have, we know we all got in bed with a bad character. We all need to collectively, meaning the residents in the town, need to move on. Whatever process needs to be done to gather the information needs to happen now. And my question is, what's preventing it from happening now? Why won't a call be made tomorrow morning to town council to ask these questions?
I think the board is starting to move on it. We will be following up with town council. Town council moves at his own pace. So, we won't necessarily have an answer back, necessarily terribly quickly. I mean, my reading of his answer on the other development, is that I would not say that, he says that, at least on that development, and again, this is where he needs to chime in on the specific language that was used for Century Mill, is that he's in default if he abandons the work, fails to prosecute the work in a continuous and expeditious manner, fails to complete the work according to approval and fails to complete work by the completion date. So I think at least one of those, Andy, is probably, if those same criteria hold, I think Andy's in this probably, at least one of those that he, that this would fall under. If we get that confirmation from town council, then we would, basically, there will be a series we'll have to, notice Andy that, that the board is pursuing, pulling the bond, to give him a chance to kind of, come clean on it. We need to understand what we can do to protect the town on the affordable units and the other tax, the other tax issues, and then move forward to town meeting in May.
Hi, this is Melissa DeHaven from 54.
We've got to wrap this up in a minute here, guys, so make it quick.
Okay. I'd like to understand the legal threshold for this. I've heard a lot of banter around, what is the threshold to hold him accountable? As Ray just pointed out nicely, this is years in the making. The DPW and the Department of Public Utilities came in and within less than a year's time was able to gather the discovery, put in place a very extensive document about his negligence and his overreach that he has done to us as residents for many years on the water issue. The Attorney General is investigating him for nefarious activity. I just find it really hard to understand why there's reference to a 10-year period or even a 2-year period when other agencies across the state are able to come in. We as residents are willing to give the documentation, the evidence, the facts, not the opinions, the facts on what has taken place. And I'm really struggling without really hearing tonight the legal
every board, every agency, every department has rules and regulations they need to live by. State law is if the planning board wants to pull a bond that's over $100,000, it has to be approved at town meeting. So that puts us in May. Since we now have to hire somebody to oversee the work, we have to put that out to bid. That's state law.
So what has to happen to get done?
So there are time frames that we have to. Should we have started this 5 years ago? Who knows? There's still houses being built. There's still progress being made out there.
That's fair. I understand the process. I guess all I'm saying in this case is I understand the process that needs to take place. However, I don't want the starting point to be tonight. I think the starting point should be years ago with the evidence to show the negligence and the lack of intent to follow through on any of the commitments he's suggested he was willing to make.
All that history plays into it, and that's part of, again, showing that he's not working in a continuous manner, since he hasn't done anything this year. I think that plays into, the abandonment issue. But, again, we can flip this around and say if the planning board pulls the trigger and says we're gonna pull the bond, and he can turn around and sue the town for that, because
he's got no money left. He's got no money left. He's not suing anybody.
He's not.
We've got to get out of this mode of operating out of fear with this guy.
Guys, stop. We're not operating out of fear. We want to make sure that there are more people in the town than just you and we want to make sure we're protecting the entire town. So we need to make sure we're doing this legally and properly. So we need town council to weigh in to make sure that we're not overstepping what we can be doing legally.
Completely understand that, but to date and for a decade for some and less for others, the residents are the only ones to feel any pain. When does the town admit culpability on this?
It's still a private road.
Well, that's kind of the issue at hand, isn't it?
It's a private road until he meets all the criteria to hand it over to and the town accepts it. That's just the way it works.
At the end of the day, we're also residents. We're paying.
Yes, I'm aware that you're also.
Can you let Melissa finish, please? Thank you, Mark.
Guys,
okay,
we're over time here.
I think that sounds good. I think at that point, that's kind of the threshold here. So we do have a public hearing that's scheduled for 7:15, so we should probably move forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, we will.
So before we end here, Mark, we got to, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just muted him.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I can't, we need to not be interrupting the chair of the board here.
We will be.
No, I'm asking for next steps
on this. The next step is we're going to follow up the town council specifically on the CME bond, and see what the make sure that we're within the performance agreement for CME to that he's violating that and that we can pull the bond. If that's the case, then we'll be moving. We'll notice him that we're intending to do that. Well, let me rephrase it slightly. The board will vote whether we want to do that, and then we will notice him that that's going to happen. He can either step up and say, no, don't do that. I need to, I want to, I need to finish it up here quickly. And because the reality is that there's more money in the bond than what it should take for him to finish it. So if he gets everything finished, he should be getting some money back for left over from the bond. So it's in his best interest to finish it at this point, financially. But if he doesn't step up and do that, then that's fine. We'll proceed from there. But we need confirmation from town council, and then we'll go from there.
How do the residents get visibility into the conversation with town council or updated on that?
So that would be, I mean, when the planning board gets together to discuss that, it would be on an agenda. That will need to be discussed in an open session. We are not able to be in an executive session unless there is actual pending litigation. So that discussion would be at a planning board meeting.
And how do we know when that'll be scheduled, or when can that be scheduled?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to tell you specific dates because it depends on communication with council.
Yeah, it depends on how quickly council gets back to us on it. The next steps on, this is focusing on the bond, on the, on the taxes. That's beyond, that's beyond what this board handles. We don't get involved in that. For road acceptance, we just need confirmation from the tax collector that the taxes are up to date. On the affordable, again, that's going to be something we need to get probably somewhere between the town accountant and town council to figure out how to cover the affordable units. Those are the big things that we have to get buttoned up and have a plan in place for, so that we're not shortchanging the town. So,
can I ask a quick question before we move on?
For you, yes.
So assuming we, everything, all the items and the checklist get done on the road, and we move forward with the road. I mean, we're still dealing. Is there any way to decouple the taxes and the affordable from the road acceptance? Or at least get it past the planning board to the selectmen, and then they can deal with that mess. I mean, I understand. We need to make sure that the road is in a state that it can be accepted. But can we just move it beyond us at that point? Because
the affordable technically, I think, is under the planning board. So,
well,
that we need to.
You can file that with the taxes because it's never going to happen. So we're just going to be waiting forever. So I don't know. I feel like we just got to move it past. If we could get the road accepted, then move it past us to the selectmen and town council. Somehow get some movement on it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not quite the procedure.
I don't think kicking it down the road to somebody else is going to make it move any faster here. I think the tax collector and town accountant are doing. I think they have all or most of the lots in tax title and or land court to foreclose on them at this point. I don't know once the tax bill is finished whether there's any money left for the affordable. We'll have to figure that out when the time comes. You know, I don't think. I mean, it's not clear that just throwing another lien on a bunch of lots would benefit anybody. You know, because the you know, if most of the value of the lot is being pulled for taxes anyway, you know, there's nothing left there for the town to, you know, to go into the affordable fund. So I think we need to understand, you know, we need to figure out if and how there's a way to protect us at that point. And I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. You know, on the bond, you know, I mean, the thing that Andy knows whether he wants to admit it or not is if the town does the work, we have to pay prevailing wage, which is much higher than what he can get subs to work at. So it's going to cost a lot more, and there's going to be a lot less left in the bond if the town has to do that work. So that's where he's got some incentive to scramble and get it finished up. But you know, those are kind of, you know, so those are the couple of things that we need to get, you know, to deal with before we can really want to, you know, move forward on finishing, on pulling the bond and kind of pulling the trigger on that whole thing. The first one being getting confirmation from town council that it's, you know, that it would be considered as abandoned at this point. So, okay. I think if there's more questions, if you want to just send an email to Valerie and the board, and we'll you know, try to pull those together and you know, either add to our questions to town council or you know, provide some answers at one of our next meetings.
Yeah, okay. I have no idea where we landed. Who should we follow up with? Valerie?
So, yeah, send an email to Valerie. She's very, very good at getting stuff out to all of us and getting answers as needed. So, you know, hate to add to her workload, but yeah, she's the best person to send the stuff to.
Do we have time for any more questions? I've had my virtual hand up.
We're about 15 to 17 minutes late now. So is it like a 30-second thing?
Yeah. So two points. One is that, you know, I think in this sort of maneuvering with the affordable housing appraisal, you know, there was 18 lots sold in 2012 and an average price of $138,000. So I think the valuation is well established. I think this is a stall tactic. The second thing is on the September 22nd meeting, the permit for the roads on phases 1 and 3 was extended. In a meeting in 2018, the original extension was contingent upon phases 2 and 4 being accepted. So the phases were not accepted, but the permit extension was granted in September. My question is if there's any reason that we could rescind that extension, because I think that is probably the most effective leverage that we have left, is to put pressure on the other owners. And I think we start to see a bit more cooperation. Is that something the board is willing to consider?
I'd have to check if we have the right to rescind that after we've granted it, but
we can ask council about that.
We can ask council if we can rescind that after we've granted it. I'm not sure if it would provide leverage, you know, the leverage that you'd like it to. But I mean, we can take a look at it and see.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's move on to our 7:15 hearing. And This is a continuation of the preliminary discussions on the phosphid plan for South Bolton Road, map 2C, parcel 23. This is continued from the October 27th meeting. Okay. So I think the applicant is here, I believe. So what do you have for us tonight? I think the open space restriction was the big thing that we were looking for, and I think some clarification around the open space and the wetlands.
Yeah, so I had submitted the open space language requested to move forward, and the wetlands, I mean, was kind of on you guys because my engineer had went through it, and based on his understanding, everything matched up. So I think you guys are going to just verify what he said. He's not here today, but that was pretty much the gist of it.
Okay, I mean, I think my reading of the regulations, and it's kind of a little bit awkwardly worded, but there's a minimum of 33% that needs to be an open space, and at most 25% of that minimum can be wetlands. So the fact that you're giving more than the 33% doesn't change that minimum amount, that the amount of wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think the numbers you provided were well over the 25%. So I'm not quite sure what ultimately the town doesn't want all the open space to be, here's the wetlands I can't do anything with anyway. So, here town have them and kind of, go from there. So, I'm not wild about the way the language is written, but it kind of is what it is. So I'm not quite sure what the, I don't have the numbers in front of me. What is the plan? Yeah, hold on a second.
There is a lot of good land up there for an open space. I've walked it a bunch of times, but I understand wetlands are wetlands.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure. I don't kind of think other developments that we would have run into this on. Anybody on the board remember a development where we had issues with the percentage of wetlands? Or
no, because most of it I think has been there's been wetlands in it. It hasn't been that high. It just hasn't come up as far as I can recall. I don't know if others have a different recollection. It says 25% of the minimum amount of restricted land. So you've got 13.23 acres of restricted land and almost 9 acres of wetlands. So I think that's where.
It says 25% of the minimum, not 25% of what's being, not 25% of what's being restricted.
Right, you're right. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Okay, so yeah. You're.
Yeah, it's that word minimum amount is, and I'm not sure why they care. I mean, if
so you take 33% and then 25% of that, right?
Yeah. That's really my reading of the reg, yeah.
Okay, so really no more than 2.5 acres can actually be wetlands within the conservation area. Because if the total area is 30.86 acres, is that right?
Of the total area of the whole lot, yeah.
Yeah, so you do 30.86 times 0.33 and then times 0.25, you get basically 2.5 acres. can be allowed within the conservation restriction area of wetlands.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, like I said, my engineer went over this last time, and it fell within the verbiage. I wish he was here today. I'm not an expert on it.
I think we gave a qualified that we need to go and review the verbiage, and we have, and it says 25% of the minimum amount. I'm not sure why, if, I personally would have struck the minimum and said, up to 25% of it can be wetland, but
well, it's right on the plan. I mean, that's what I'm reading is right on the plan that was issued. It says farmland, open space, planned residential development, phosphid, and then the second sentence: no more than 25% of the minimum amount of restricted land can be a wetland resource area as defined in the wetlands by such and such.
Right.
So it is right on there. I think just the amount is confusing of how exactly that should be calculated, but I think that is pretty clear.
Which I believe is how the engineer had anticipated being calculated.
Right, but it's about 5 acre, 4.5 acres of wetland area. So
because it looks like it's 4. Yeah, it's 4 point. My understanding, you got 3.23 acres restricted, 8.91 acres of upland area within the restricted area. So therefore, you've got 4.32. Is that assumed to be wetland area?
Well, total land area not within wetland resource areas is 8.91. Yeah, so the balance I would assume would be
4.32.
Yeah.
4.3. Yeah.
Can we? I guess can we assume that that's all wetland, or is that not an okay assumption?
Well, since it's land not within wetland resource area, I assume that that would leave land within the wetland resource area.
I was just trying to see if there was another potential to kind of reduce that number so it could work. That's all I was just trying to see.
Yeah.
I would also want to verify that the definition of wetland resource area is understood so that it's the wetland plus the 100-foot buffer.
Right. I guess I would question that. So typically, a wetland resource area is only by the Wetlands Protection Act within the wetland line. The buffer zone is considered a buffer. It is not a resource area. It becomes a little bit different when you talk about riverfront area, but we're not there. So I don't think that includes your 100. I think honestly, maybe Rebecca would be the best person.
So yeah, so I mean his quote from the regs calls out a wetland resource area is defined in the wetlands bylaw 1.18.2. So it is defined, but he's saying that 8.91 is outside of that area, which is more than the roughly 2.5 that can be within the area. I'm not quite so I mean, realistically, I mean that means that you need to take 1.5 acres of it and extend it into or so and extend it into various lots instead of having it excluded which I'm not.
I guess
makes a lot of sense, but that's kind of what the regs say. So,
yeah. Again, I wish I had recorded the engineer's interpretation last time that he went over this because we kind of already went through this the same exact discussion time.
We did with the caveat that we needed to go and review the regs and understand them, and we have now. So,
okay.
and I think our interpretation is that, you have about 2.5 acres of wetland there to, roughly speaking, that can be part of the phosphorid. And how you get to that, it's up to you guys.
I guess, can I ask a question of muddy the waters here? I know it says 20% of the minimum amount of restricted land, but because they are actually restricting more than the 33%, if we were to take 25% of the 13.23 acres, that equals 3.3 acres. So it's not up to the 4.3 acres that obviously they're including right now. Yeah. But I guess my question is there leniency at all with, they're providing a larger restriction, conservation restriction than the 33%. So could the amount of wetland area within that be increased, accordingly with that? So, instead of it being 2.5, maybe it's allowed to be 3.3 if they're going to keep the 13.23 acres. There's still some math that needs to happen where you have more wetlands, unfortunately, that no matter what exceeds the 25%, but how you allocate that 25%, is there a little bit of leeway there, given the fact that there's a larger amount of area being restricted? I just want to see what the board thought with that.
Well, I guess my first question would be, is this something that we can issue a variance for?
I don't know.
Valerie.
That's a good question.
I would say that it's part of the zoning bylaw, and so that would be a ZBA. But maybe let me pull up the code and just see if it might say something about planning board waivers.
Yeah, it just seems if by any chance, they're willing to give a larger area to be restricted, they shouldn't be limited to that original 2.5 acres. I mean, I think that could grow, but it still shouldn't exceed the 25%. But it seems to me like it could be reasonable to allow that to increase, appropriately or accordingly, whatever.
You see, I don't understand why it says it's 25% of the minimum amount.
Yeah.
Well, I think they did that on purpose, right? So you're not just including a ton of wetlands in it. So you're not saying, there's land I can't do anything with anyway, so I'm using that as, to skirt the intent of this, which is to provide open land, usable land for people to do stuff on.
Right. And and I could easily see saying no more than 25% of the restricted, the amount of restricted land. That still gives, regardless of how much restricted land you get, you still got at least 3/4 of it is not wetland.
I think that's what I was getting at.
The open space that we're trying to protect. In this case, we're going to, assuming he has to get down to the 2.5 acre number, it's going to be redrawing a bunch of lot lines to have fingers out into the wetlands to, add, which really doesn't, it's wetland, it's protected. It doesn't really, it's not going to affect the taxes or anything on those lots noticeably. So I'm not quite sure where from the town's perspective, how does that benefit, as opposed to saying, taking Danielle's suggestion, if we're protecting, 13 acres and, if we get that down to, 3.3 or 3.5 or whatever the number is, of wetland, we're still, we still have 75% of the open area that's upland and we're protecting that extra wetland area. So, I mean, I agree. The goal is to not have, not just hand the town the wetlands and say, that's my open space, you're all done. But I'm not quite sure why it's, no more than 25% of the minimum amount. But, and Valerie's back from doing her.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about waiving that.
Okay. Okay.
Just curious, couldn't I just take one of those lots and make it bigger to like you said, to get more wetlands within one of the lots, and then that eliminates the wetlands from the open space plan? It's like completely not what I want to do. Obviously, it's just, I'm just saying, I can get rid of wetlands from the open space. That's not difficult.
I mean, as long as the total, restricted area is maintains the proper percentage. Yes, yes, in theory you can do that. I mean, personally, this is where I find the wording in there kind of silly, but I understand some rationale for it, but where you're donating more, we're restricting more than the minimum, seems like that amount of wetlands should be able to be increased, proportionally as well. But yeah, so I think the board is in, well, I mean, does anybody on the board have a different interpretation of that section that okay. So I think the consensus of the board is unfortunately that, it's, the minimum amount that, is the, is 10 point, roughly 10.2 acres. And, so the most amount of wetland would be about 2.5, as opposed to the 4 and change that you have now. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask then that if we can continue this, so I can bring my engineer back, if possible.
Yeah.
To get his opinion. I mean, well, obviously it's just redrawing some stuff, like you said. I'm gonna have to make some weird lots, I guess. But we'll do what we have to do to make it work, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I think
okay.
As we continue the public hearing, I think we'll also need to have just an email from you, Jeff, that says that it's acceptable to extend the deadline of action, which is currently set for December 3rd. So if we can extend that, as the board's next meeting isn't until December 8th, I believe. So.
And
okay.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? Looking at Oliver, I believe a lot of, this is the area that has endangered species, is that correct?
Yeah, well, so we will want to have National Heritage review the site as well, or at least the applicant will want to do that, as that will likely impact the number of lots there.
Yeah, because I guess just forgetting the phosphid plan, just the by right plan, I guess in order for us to determine whether 6 lots can actually be done on this plan, given the endangered species, we would need to know if there's areas that are not developable because of that. Because that's kind of the basis for the by right plan. And I think we need to just have a clear letter from them understanding that. So that way we can sign off on the by right plan, that there is really 6 lots there.
Okay. Sorry, you heard there was endangered species? Is that?
Yes, it looks like there may be. So I think I mentioned this at the last hearing, that the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program it came up when Century Mill Estates was developed just on the abutting parcels, and it seems like there may be a habitat crossing kind of around where lots, I think 5 and 4 are. So, and there may be other areas. I'm not very familiar with the with the area. So I think if you want to go ahead and contact them just to make sure that you won't have any stop all limitations at the site, that would be good to know at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay, so I have to contact the, what's the name of the agency?
Yes, it's called the Natural Heritage.
Natural Heritage, yeah, and Endangered Species.
Thank you.
NHESP is who you want to reach out to.
Yeah, your engineer should know how to handle that too.
Okay.
Yeah, because if part of the area of lots 4 and 5 are protected areas, and that would impact the number of lots that we can certify for the development as well.
And
okay.
it doesn't look like the entire parcel, like I'm looking at Oliver right now. It's just, but there is a good chunk of it that's within mapped habitat.
Okay. And what are you looking at? You're looking at a mapped.
Yeah, Mass GIS on the Oliver program. If you were to ask your engineer, he should be able to pull it up real quickly.
All right.
It's
Awesome.
all publicly available, readily available.
Yep. All right. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
We need to make a motion to continue the hearing, I think.
Yeah.
What was the date of our next meeting?
December 8th.
And do we have anything else on the calendar yet?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue the phosphid preliminary review to December 8th.
Second.
And those in favor, Daniel Spicer.
Aye.
Michael Gore.
Aye.
Peter Driscoll.
Aye.
Eric Neeland.
Aye.
And Mark Sprague.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll see you then. See you in December.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. I don't see. Okay. The next on the agenda is discussion with David Kane on zoning determination for 460 Main Street.
Yes. Let me just check my email.
Okay.
Make sure I didn't miss anything from him. So, yeah, so he may not be in attendance tonight. So essentially, it looks like, and I think I've included this on the packet in the packets. So he is wondering if he truly has a split lot or if his lot is fully within the business district. I have a 1997 A&R plan that he's provided, and this shows it shows a zoning line between that would put his full lot in business district. However, A&R plans don't typically discuss zoning districts, and zoning is determined by a town meeting vote. We even have, I also included a 2014 A&R plan of around the same parcel that does show the correct current line. And our current zoning map also includes this as a split lot. So I don't understand exactly where the confusion may have come from, other than that 1997 A&R plan. But I think he was looking for affirmation of that opinion. or rejection of it.
I guess I would
So-
concur.
Oh,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Eric.
You can go first.
I was just going to say, I thought that I was in agreement with you that the A&Rs were for subdivision and frontage and dimensional requirements. And if we have a 2014 plan, you said we have a 2014 A&R plan that shows it correctly?
Yes, I don't have it. I don't believe it was endorsed, but it was created, but not, I don't believe the parcel was ever divided in this way.
I guess regardless of either of them, I would think that the zoning would rule, unless there was some sort of meeting at town meeting that overrode that. Because correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is the only way to change the zoning law is through town meeting, and then that would be updated, that would update the zoning lines. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Is it possible that, back when it was originally done, they would just, they were like, oh yeah, it's like sort of in the business zone. So, they just considered it that and they weren't really thinking split lot. Because clearly they weren't, defining the business zone according to lot lines as we've seen in the past few years. I mean, it's just arbitrary basically where it is. It's so many feet from the highway and so many feet from 117. But the intent of this lot, the gas station is built on that. I think for this town meeting that we should, address not Bolton Capital, and not the other hot items, but I think we should address this lot and maybe, to put it the full limited business zone and like Bolton Woods Way, make that all residential. I think we should address those items.
I definitely agree that if we were able to have our article pass, how many years ago we tried to put it forth, it would make this a lot simpler. Like the parcels that we tried to do. So maybe you're right, Eric. Maybe we just kind of pick the parcels that it makes sense that obviously aren't confrontational, that we can maybe move forward with in town meeting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I think we should go through and pick the easiest ones and just try to fix the zone, because it just makes zero sense how it's just, cutting through everything.
So I think, Valerie, to your first question is, the zoning map rules and abides by it. So the A&R plans are not.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, they can't stand on that. But we're willing to put forth potentially, an article like Eric was just talking about, with trying to clean up some of these parcels that have the split zoning in it, and obviously include this.
Yeah, I forget exactly what, I mean, I know Bolton Capital was the hot button one. I don't remember what the.
That was the main one, because it was like, it went from being
such a nice property.
It went from being, I think, like 3 acres to like 12 acres or something.
Yeah. And they were concerned with that, so.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going to bring that one.
No.
So we're gonna strand a handful of lots in town with split zoning and clean up the rest of them.
I mean, do what we can do. Clearly, we can do the whole thing.
Exactly. I agree.
Okay, yeah, so I think to answer your question, it is split zoning. It's up to the board whether we want to try again to remedy that or not. Is there something, Valerie, is there some reason that they're asking about the zoning here?
Yes, so he is, it looks like he's considering some development plans, and he is hoping that it is entirely business. So essentially he would be waiting for the lot to, or the zoning to change on the lot in order to move forward with his development plans.
So basically it's a pre-existing non-conforming, right? Because it's kind of straddling the line, essentially.
Do you mean is the gas station itself?
Yeah, right.
I'd have to take a look at the setbacks between the structure of the station and the zoning lines. I haven't.
I was just wondering.
I believe it is from past meetings. It's got like 1 acre total. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming, I think.
Okay, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So if it is pre-existing non-conforming, if you do a major renovation that you lose that, is that true?
You would, it would be seen as an expansion of use, which would need its own special permit.
Mm-hmm. So then you lose your pre-existing non-conforming.
Yes.
You have to be very careful what renovations you do and how you do them to maintain that. That's why you'll see buildings renovated and one wall will remain untouched, is because that's enough to maintain their pre-existing status.
So we don't do use special permits, so you couldn't change the use. So if you were to expand a gas station along, like as a gas station to make that a bigger use, it would still need to be within that type of use, if that makes sense. So
so the development I saw is a gas station with like a convenience store or something like that, so it's a similar use, but it's just I think it would be a completely new structure.
So right, so then that would qualify as a expansion of use needing a special permit through the ZBA. So you're right. So I guess if the point is, maybe there's another way to do it, but rather than changing the zoning, if he's looking to go through a ZBA process, to get something done faster. But it's kind of the applicant's choice whether they want to go forward with a zoning change or try to, think through the criteria, the thresholds that the ZBA would need in order to even be able to grant that kind of permit.
Yeah.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Would the information that Eric saw be in the package, and where would I get this package?
What's your ad? I'm sorry, just for the
I'm
record.
sorry,
what's your address?
sorry. Don Cole, 442 Main Street.
So I have not been providing the meeting packets for the board as public documents, but if you would like me to email you the plans that we're reviewing, I can definitely send them over to you.
That'd be great. Thank you. I believe you have my email, Martha, and I
think what he was referring to though is just a non-submitted plan that the owner showed me. So I don't think it's something that town has. I think that's what.
Oh, so it was more just talking to you as part of EDC or. Yeah, right.
Oh, I see. No, okay. So you're asking
something past you, yeah.
It's nothing that the town has seen, I don't think.
I have not seen any development plans for.
Yeah, they haven't put any plans.
Fine.
So sorry, Don.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think there was a meeting a couple years ago with Erica and myself when I was the chairman. And it was like just a preliminary, this is what I'm thinking type meeting. Okay. So it's nothing that he was like officially submitted for review.
Okay, I know they were talking about expanding the number of the number of islands, the number of gas pumps, and things like that. And that's what I'm trying to find out.
Right, but there's nothing, there's nothing submitted to the town to even discuss at this point.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
But I think to answer the original question, it is split zoning as shown in the which is the 2014 A&R plan, not the not whatever was shown in the 1997 plan. So I think that's so, and then what he wants to do and how he wants to proceed, with that information is, whether it's working with the board to try to get the zoning changed or going to the ZBA to try to get a, waivers or whatever, that's in his court now.
Right.
So, okay. Let's move on to next thing on the agenda is vote to accept Holton Farm Common Driveway as-built plans. Have we gotten everything we need there, Valerie?
No, so I spoke with Peter Bradley, I believe it was just yesterday, and he stated that they were cleaning the stones and redoing the drainage swale. So I'm trying to get Niche out on site to review that work, and that's the final item that was on their last letter. So once we have that one item cleaned up, then we're good to go.
So hopefully our December meeting we can.
Yeah, I'll just keep putting it on the agenda.
Okay, so then I can skip over the bond release for Holton Farm subdivision as well, right? Well, I'm sure he'd prefer us to release it, but we're not until it's signed off on. Okay, next is discussion with Bruce Wheeler of Habitat concept plan for mixed use development on parcel 6B-3 and request to expand mixed use village overlay district. Okay. Bruce, what do you have for us tonight? If you're, oh, there you go. Okay.
How's everyone doing this evening?
Keeping busy.
Yeah, Lou, the meeting is starting, please. All right. Yeah, we're just. I'm here with Tom Miner from Hawk Design and Larry Reeves from Reeves Architectural Associates and Lou Levine. We're following up on the meeting that we had a month ago, 2 meetings ago, where we shared the watercolor perspective of the 47 unit active adult community, building on what we're calling Still River Commons, the commercially zoned property next to Tadmore. And we discussed the possibility of expanding the mixed use village overlay district to include our parcel and a number of other parcels at that intersection. And I asked to be on the agenda tonight to share further architectural development and site plans, the architectural design of the 5,000 square foot commercial space or retail building, and the expansion. We revised the site plan to expand the commons area and integrate the commons area into the side of the retail space. Valerie, would we be able to share the screen and have Tom put up the revised site plan?
Yes, you should be able to now.
If all goes well.
Larry, you're the backup.
I've got you covered.
Okay.
How's that? Can everybody see that?
Oh, we can. That we can. That's great.
Okay.
So the previous site plan that we had a second access out to Main Street between the commercial space and the commons. And as we spent more time with it, we came to the conclusion that having the two accesses on Main Street was unnecessary, and it was really cutting off the commons area, the park area, from the rest of the property. And we felt like we could make it much more robust by expanding that area and then integrating it into the side of the retail space, where we'd have on the left side of that building, we would hope to have a cafe or nice restaurant space that would have outdoor seating that would sort of integrate into the commons area. Tom, do you want to expand on what you did there?
Well, as you said, we were just trying to enlarge this space and try to create some walking paths out into this open space. Maybe the center of this becomes, when I say gardens, it's more just flowering shrubs and perennials. We don't want any high maintenance planting out there, but at the end of it, we could put in some type of structure, whether it's a gazebo or open pergola, just something to end this this view here. As Bruce said, we'd have an outdoor seating area here for to work off the cafe, and we keep visibility to the garden area here. As we come back in, we come across this this green space here. This, depending on what we can do with over these utilities underneath this, we can add, I believe we can add low shallow growing shrubs and no trees, but we can add some height in here to our main door into our residential building. And then in the back, we have a function patio, grills, seating areas, maybe a fire pit, all to be determined. And then we have a walking garden out back for the residences, and that comes up and connects all through everything. So it's an improved plan. I'm glad we were able to eliminate this extra entry exit. We are showing evergreen screening here. We'll be losing some trees along this property line here, and we'll fill in evergreen screening where we need it, and some street trees along Main Street here.
Yeah, and I think with the proximity to the school and at this really great intersection in the town, the commons area will be a really nice amenity that a lot of people will be able to enjoy, and expanding it makes a lot of sense, and having it integrate into the retail space really increases the vibrancy of that space as well. Larry, can you put up can you share the screen and put up the perspective of the building?
Sure. Let's see here.
Do I have to stop, Larry? Stop share?
Let's see. I'm gonna throw my share. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you'll need to stop, and then I can do that. So we've now, we should be able to see that fairly well. What we did do was, played off of the architecture, which we did show you previously. I'll throw that up there shortly here. And doing a nice building that has, a much more of a streetscape character to what is common along Main Street. Really the the smaller scale rather than sort of the big cookie cutter kind of a commercial building. Really playing off of this being a really very nice space for the tenants, as well as having this connection to the outdoors. And I think this whole switch from to pick up the relationship of our both this commercial and the residential to that green space, and be able to develop an outdoor seating area. But also, I think the draw potential from people driving by, but our residential project in conjunction with the commercial also provides opportunities for some sort of crossover uses and just simple concurrent uses between the high school and the residents here. So there's a density of residents that will actually get a real interaction going. So I think there's a kind of an extra benefit here by playing up this green space. And if something ever happens with the DPW space adjacent, that green space can be moved in, you're kind of moved over to the intersection even further, and maintaining this as a solid area. And I think actually, for just as a reference, then our residential building, probably get, I think we'll get most of the screen available there. So we do have
for uses, we're thinking a high-end cafe restaurant space, and there is a need to have a high-end convenience store that so people can have something that's more accessible than they do now for food shopping, and those are the uses that we see as the biggest voids to fill in, and what would sort of create the most value to the town as retail space.
I had a couple questions. Should I wait
Sure,
until?
no, jump in, Danielle. How are you?
Good. Can we go back to the plan view?
Yeah, let's go back.
I have that up here as well.
Oh, perfect. That's it.
Great.
That's perfect. So I guess my first comment is that, I've seen multiple iterations of this, and I actually really like the fact that you eliminated that first curb cut along Main Street, especially as close to that was to the intersection. Yeah. Having just one along Main Street's crazy enough as it is. I think that actually was a really great design change, and I really like that. One thing I wanted to know, it looks like you are doing a sidewalk. It's the gray line right along Main Street that kind of goes to the intersection. One thing I would ask, if I know it goes outside your property limits, but if I think in promoting pedestrian access and kind of around the site, because you have an access on Main Street and Forbush Mill, is can we have a sidewalk that kind of connects all the way around? So as you kind of, you got it going through Main Street, but then bring it down Forbush almost all the way to where you've got your driveway, just to allow, we've got the high school right across there. We do have a lot of people that walk there. I just think that would be a benefit. I don't know if that's something that can be added, but I would see that as a really big amenity to be added. The other question I had was, correct me if I'm wrong on the grading. So Main Street's higher and then the site goes down. Is that correct?
We're growing up here, I believe.
So where I was going is, I see you have a potential reserved area for leaching fields. You got, a lot of building and paving. Have you even considered stormwater? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, if you consider early on, and the fact that you have a lot of green space that you might be able to work it into to make it as an aesthetic, above ground component that can be aesthetically pleasing. And also help mitigate for stormwater versus doing it as an afterthought at the end and just shoving it somewhere. So I just didn't know if you guys had started to consider that and what your thoughts were.
We have, and Greg's not here tonight, and he had he has been planning and thinking about the stormwater management, but I don't really have that.
It's too early. Okay.
The exact details of what he had in mind, but it is part of what he's already has general plans for. With regard to the sidewalk, I think that's I agree 100% and see that as great value, and we'll add that to the plan going forward.
Okay, great. Yeah. And if and Greg may already be doing this, but if I think it's a great opportunity to have, just because you've got so much green space that you can have little stormwater things here and there. I mean, obviously, taking a grading, but to make it a part of the site, I think could really work well here. So it's just a thought.
I agree, and we'll be prepared to communicate and discuss that the next time that we're together. Greg got pulled out of this meeting for another obligation.
Those are just my three kind of main quick questions I had. I'll let others on the board and ask, but those are just my quick thoughts.
Sure.
I'm not sure that I have anything specific tonight. I do think getting rid of that extra curb cut is good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where the rotary will extend to. But I think looking at, and I assume that there's going to be some sidewalks and crosswalks as part of the rotary. So trying to line up extend the sidewalk to line up with those would be a big benefit.
Should I be talking to the DPW director about the rotary, or who's really the point person there?
Yep, that is the DPW director. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, I'll continue to communicate with him.
Yeah.
And we'd certainly be interested in being a partner in the development of the rotary. I know that he had was working on a grant for funding, and I'll check back in with him, but we're interested in participating in that process of developing the rotary. And I feel like having a private party in there would enable that to be done much more cost effectively.
Hey, Bruce, can you talk a little bit more about the commercial building? You mentioned the, restaurant cafe would be great. You said high-end convenience. What do you envision for that?
Well, we know it's not going to be fast food.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've gotten specific, but we do think it would be just with the location in the town and in the proximity of the high school and in this active adult community in the park, that some type of cafe restaurant use would be, I think would be really attractive.
Okay.
Okay. Have you talked to any of the other businesses in the area? Any of the other landowners in the area?
Oh, that Greg had outlined as is being included in the potential expansion of the village district.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not yet.
Okay.
But we'll be doing that over the next week.
Okay. Okay. Pete, Eric, any
yeah, I mean, I think the overall design looks great. I know in the past we talked about understanding the market. You know, I assume that, you know, if you wanted to stay all business, like a multi-pad site, you know, it's just the current market for retail and stuff just doesn't, you know, potentially isn't there to have a all business site. That's why in the hot market is residential. So I'm sure that's why you want that. But have you done kind of a market analysis of over 55, or if we don't want to limit it, just keep it how it is, you know, on not 55, limited to 55. Typically these type of units tend to not be families anyway, you know, or what the attractiveness of the over 55 is. And then, you know, if you feel the whole site could be, you know, business, or if just the market wouldn't allow for that. So I guess what type of market analysis have you guys done for this site?
With regard to the active adult use?
Yeah, that, and just, you know, like how much business, how many tenants, you know, type of tenants you think would, you know, work, like
there's massive demand for the development of active adult housing in central locations within Bolton and the abutting towns. There's massive demand. The retail demand is weak. It's a lost leader, really coupled up with the active adult development. I think that we can put together some great tenants that will provide great services to Bolton, but it's not it's not a super vibrant economic environment for that, and the site can't work really just on the retail commercial space on its own.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I, you know, definitely figured. But so I think what we have to do is we just have to determine if, you know, this spot and the spot across the street, you know, if just to get some business, you know, if we have to go with the overlay, so you can, like you said, offset the economic gain for you guys would be the residential, but then we would get some amenities in town
Right.
with the overlay.
That's right. I mean, that's what would be driving the whole thing. So the retail is, for the most part, it's a loss leader, and we can develop a great building and put some good tenants in there, but it's not going to be. It can't on its own drive the economics of the site.
And your thoughts on restricting it to over 55 versus having it completely open?
Well, if you restrict it, I see the need for the active adult housing going for many decades. Valley was part of a discussion that we had in Stowe, where we're developing an active adult community there, and they chose to have it age targeted as opposed to age restricted, because there was a concern 20 and 30 years down the road with regard to the demand for that housing. We can do age targeted product here and not have it restricted. We would have probably 2/3 the number of units. I haven't run the numbers, but the sewage, the septic requirements are greater without the age restriction. So if we have 47 units, we might end up with 32 units or something like that. That's just that's a guesstimate, and that ties into the limitations of the nitrogen loading that would be on the site.
So you have 64 total bedrooms to play with. Yeah.
We have, I don't know that it's 64. I mean, there's
47 age restricted. Age restricted is 150 gallons per day. And then non-age restricted is 110 gallons per bedroom per day. So it works out to 64 bedrooms.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So that's great. So we could do 32 2-bedroom units. So if that is important to you folks in the town of Bolton, we would be willing to pivot to having it be age targeted versus age restricted.
So I guess on that front, so I was bringing it up, but I'm not sure really where we stand. I mean, we have 40B coming in at the office park, which won't be age restricted. We have a development on South Bolton Road, which will be age restricted, I believe. So I'm just not sure where we are with our inventory of each. I know we have the Regency, which is age restricted.
It might be worth, is it possible to get like a calculation done of, and I don't even know if this is how this would be done, but just to kind of see where we are within the town and to kind of get a better understanding?
Yeah, like what percentage of our housing is age restricted and how does that compare?
Because originally I was thinking it was great that it was age restricted because I thought that there was definitely a big need, but I may be off. I don't know.
Right. So. Yeah, so I'm not sure either. That's why I'm just bringing it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one of the items that I was listing at our last meeting on the 27th as, you know, what additional information do we need?
That would be good. Yeah, if we could have someone just to kind of show that. I mean, I would think that there's definitely a need, but is it? I don't know, to the extent. I guess that would be helpful to understand that a little bit better.
And I think to that point, if there is market research or data that Habitat has gathered, I think it would be useful for the board to be able to review that as well. Especially also just in terms of traffic impacts too, just as I'm just thinking about the discussion about the Rotary as well. So, you know, what does it mean to build out further?
What does it mean for what, Valerie?
Just to, you know, I understand this is already a business parcel, but as we look to kind of do a comprehensive plan of the economic situation in Bolton, thinking about what the traffic impacts of a residential development of this size may be, or even of the commercial space, you know.
Well, I'm assuming a traffic study. You guys will be doing a traffic study for this. Is that right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Well, right. So I think it's a little bit difficult because the board is kind of trying to react to two different things. So there's reacting to the site plans in front of us, and then there's reacting to other discussions that we're having in town over a comprehensive look at our business districts. So it's a little bit challenging to respond to one possible development when there is there are other considerations.
Okay. Well,
so yeah, just the additional information may help.
Yeah. So we can share. We can do a presentation of the market analysis and the in sort of the depth of the active adult market and sort of how the age groups demographically move forward over the next 20 or 30 years, which would be, I think, helpful and interesting to see. And we can share some traffic information as well with regard to how our development would affect traffic on Main Street or 117. So we'd be happy to do that.
That'd be great.
Okay, that'd be good.
And additionally, I'll include feedback from all of the landowners that Greg had outlined in his his plan that showed the other parcels that would potentially have expansion into the village district.
Okay, that'd be good.
Actually, Valerie, or Bruce, it would be great. I know Frank's an owner of some of that land. It would be nice to talk to them. I know you guys are going to go out and touch base with them, but it would be nice to talk to the other owners in this area too, to see their thoughts, so we can think of this area as like a cohesive thing, you know. And if we are going to do some overlay, it'd be nice to have not just this parcel in mind, but the whole, you know, the whole zone area. Because I think that's what we're planning on doing by looking at the business zones and the master plan. So it would be nice to look at the, you know, the area as a whole. So maybe we could talk to some of the other owners and see what they were thinking or seeing for the future.
Yeah, I can see if they so when I talk to them, I'll see if they'll if I can get them to come to the you know, a meeting, whether it's the next meeting or the meeting after, whatever works schedule-wise for you folks. But I think having them participate in the discussion would be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Mike, Pete, any questions?
So what do you have for availability over your next two meetings?
That's your next meeting is December 8th.
Okay. I think that would be, so that gives us a month. That's plenty of time, or that's
it's been a month, basically about, because we're the 10th today.
It's 4 weeks from today.
Yeah, I would just say, I think that it may be useful to push it to January, so that the board has further time to kind of have this discussion of their goals and vision for the business districts.
Okay.
And maybe do a little bit more public outreach around what's being proposed.
Yeah, isn't there when is the master plan steering committee? They're doing like an economic forum in December or January or something, aren't they? Or
I certainly hope not, because I'll be no, we're not. That may be later in the winter. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I definitely think this December is probably too quick with Thanksgiving, and I think maybe
I'm just thinking about the amount of background work that I would like to be able to do ahead of facilitating a discussion with the board. Already kind of puts December 8th at a bit of a crunch. So
all right, what's the date in January?
We actually haven't set our January meeting date.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, I think we should
discuss it.
It would tentatively be the 12th. That's usually when it would be, because that's the second Wednesday. But as Valerie mentioned, it hasn't been set.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just keep that in mind, and just for our planning with regard to traffic and market analysis and outreach to the abutters and inviting them to join in the discussion.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Hey. Hey. Okay. And the last thing on the agenda that I know of, I don't know if Jane was here for anything in particular, or if you were just listening in for the night. But the last thing is the kind of discussion of zoning updates and business district and mixed use overlay district.
Yes. So as I briefly mentioned, unfortunately, I'm not very prepared for a meeting tonight on our goals and vision, simply because it's been pretty busy over here. But it is difficult to have a developer come forward and ask us to respond to a specific plan when we're considering what goals we may have in total. So I have some initial comments based on what we just saw, which basically is, I understand that the developer is saying there's a market for this, but we should be thinking, what else is there a market for? And if retail is a loss leader, perhaps we should better consolidate our commercial districts. I would love to be able to have more time to be able to focus on this effort, because essentially when I look at the zoning map, I want to think, let's do a clean slate. Let's wipe all of the zoning districts away. Where would we put a business district? Is it here? Or let's work backwards. If we really do have this vision of a walkable, small business center around a rotary near the high school, how do we completely change the business district zoning to build exactly that? So instead of simply expanding an overlay district, really doing kind of a zoning audit to figure out how do we write into our existing zoning code exactly what we want to have built. So it's difficult too to kind of do this in a vacuum. And so I do think that we should be doing a little bit more public outreach in order to understand what other people's opinions are. I've certainly had a number of conversations with folks, and it's definitely making me feel like there's a lot of pressure for us to turn this around, quickly and provide a way forward for Bruce. But the comments I'm hearing make me kind of want to slow it down and make sure that we are moving forward with a project that best serves a balance of interests. So unfortunately, I don't have much to add tonight. I know that my last memo that I wrote for the last meeting kind of had a few next steps that I have not been able to follow up on. Other than reaching out to the village overlay committee, which was around in 2013 and 2014, that helped kind of do the study for where the district as it is was going to be. And I'm not sure that I really heard enough. I think I need more history on how they settled on the parcels that they did. It sounded like they were focused on encouraging development and density around 495. But I have some follow-up questions around, okay, well, so why just there? Would the same rubric kind of cover another dense area on the west side of town? What kind of process did they go through?
I had that question as well, because if you look at the stated goals of the village overlay district, like two of them are very specific to that, that area, right? Like one of them is a walking path to the Bolton Country Manor, right?
Yeah.
So if we were to include, these parcels in the village overlay, we basically have to change the village overlay bylaw to remove something like that, right? Because it doesn't make sense with this parcel.
We would have to edit the intent.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason they put it where they put it was because it's the least scary for most of the people in town, and so it was the most palatable way of getting it through. I mean, I think it failed the first time through, didn't it, Eric?
I thought it did. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think it did. And then they made some small tweaks. I think, there was some small changes that were brought up, and then in a lot more like marketing and a better presentation, and then it passed.
So I forgot that I had not mentioned this to the full board. I was going to do it in a planner's report, but I forgot that we had the CME first. So we did get a grant to do a business district assessment and market analysis. So that was just unembargoed the other day. So this is very good news because it comes at a very apt time. So what that means is through the state's Massachusetts Downtown Initiative, which is part of DHCD, they will essentially pay for, it's like a lump sum that pays for a report over that covers the a business assessment essentially of all of our commercial areas. And so we will be shortly, I'm hoping sometime in November, in the next few weeks here, meeting on site with a consultant to kind of provide them with an initial view of the situation in Bolton. And part of that process is a lot of public outreach, some good communication with business owners and landowners, as well as the public. So there'll be a good opportunity for the residents to weigh in on what types of businesses they want to see in town, and also to understand from the business perspective, what they need in order to get over the obstacles that they're coming across. So hopefully we'll be benefited by that technical assistance. But that process does take some time. It's going to take about, I think the fastest they could do it would be about 6 months. As we continue to talk with Bruce and Habitat, we should be considering, whether we want to tell him if the board wants to move forward with this ahead of this next town meeting, or if you're considering a longer time frame, we may want to be more upfront about that.
So my opinion on the zoning, it'd be great it's great that we got that grant, because it'll be nice to get all that information. But basically the Kane property seems like it's destined for some type of, even though it's not zoned for this yet, but warehouse or, something like that. Whereas, we're losing Bolton Office Park. Really the one area where I feel like it could support a small retail group of businesses is that area. So I would like to figure out how we can best utilize that. And that was why, can the areas, have just a business only? I mean, I know the retail market is pretty awful right now, but, can it have multi small pad site, just businesses, or do we have to have, or there's no way getting around, residential with it. So, but just in general, to get the small retail or, cafe, restaurants, a wine shop or, something like that, more entertainment, food type based things, maybe we do need the residential, but it seems like that area is the one area where we could potentially, zone it in a particular way, whether it's a new overlay for that specific area. Like Mike said, the old overlay doesn't really apply to this one. Maybe we want to make it a more heavily, maybe allow for some residential, but have it be a majority of retail or something like that, to figure out how we zone this specific area.
Well, I wouldn't write off the Kane land just yet. I mean, as you said, they're also going to be coming for a zoning change. So, I mean, once they start having that conversation with this board, I'm going to raise the same flag.
I mean, they're coming for a warehouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't writing it. I was writing it off for retail.
But I'm saying, just because the developer,
right.
We could. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so I have a couple of, based on what Bruce is saying, where the retail is the loss leader to enable him to get the residential. Creating whether it's expanding mixed use or creating a separate district that has more commercial, we're kind of juggling. I mean, if he's saying that retail is a loss leader, how much more, if we said, yeah, we support it if there's, 10,000 square feet of retail, does it still make sense for him? For example, and we have, how many more convenience stores do we need? We have Bolton Orchards, we have Country Cupboard. Do we need one? I'm sure there'd be great foot traffic from the high school to one that was there, but is that, is supplying junk food to the high school a viable business?
I do eat a lot of junk food.
Yeah, but if that's all you're selling, is that enough to support a business there? But I mean,
well, is that what the rest of the town wants too? I mean,
it depends on.
I'd love a restaurant there or something.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice little, yeah.
So that kind of gets to the, again, it's awkward because we're responding to a specific development. So then there's the negotiation piece of what more could we get if it is a good idea. But someone mentioned, I think it was Mark, the impact on the other parcels. It would be interesting to do a build out and kind of understand, if we did expand this district, is mixed use even feasible on those sites, given the size of the parcels? Are we expanding the district just to get away from spot zoning, but then it doesn't actually benefit other owners? I don't know.
Is it officially spot zoning if we're just expanding a current overlay? I mean, I guess if we're just adding it to one parcel, but like, for instance, if we just included it originally, it wouldn't be spot zoning. So I don't know. Is it officially spot zoning?
So I don't know what the legal precedent is for overlay districts, but certainly when you're changing zoning on one, my feeling is that it is, because you're changing the allowed uses on one lot. So you're essentially providing economic advantage to one owner. And so, you need, for any zoning change, you really need to show the AG your zoning study and the considerations that you took to create that district, so that you better protect the town for any future appeals or zoning concerns from residents.
To that point, So I think the answer is, yes. If we're going to do this, then we need to look at it. Actually creating a district there, not just adding one lot to the overlay.
Well, I think there's more like research that can be done, right? Valerie, that's what you're getting at, is we want to explore a little bit more if we can.
Yeah, right. Like just do more studies, which, I know I'm saying this, and I don't know how to work this into my own work plan. But there does need to be more zoning analysis done. There needs to be more public outreach done, and more communication with the other owners.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to talk to some of the other owners. Some of the parcels, I don't think, the Classic Pizza, again, it's kind of a pre-existing non-conforming, and so it doesn't really matter if that's included in this, because you can never do anything with it, with that parcel. So but we need to think carefully about what to or not to include in it.
So that kind of gets to my point of, maybe you couldn't I know that I'm poking holes in my own theories here, but maybe you can't do anything with it now. But if the town decides that this is a good district, then maybe we should clean the slate and look at how to write a zoning bylaw that would allow more to be done on that site. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Even though they're limited by their water situation.
It's not a huge site, any of them, really.
No.
And like realistically, I don't know, when I drive around and I see other towns doing development, like you go through Berlin, they're developing these huge parcels. Like I'm trying to think of where I've seen someone do a development on a parcel this small. Like,
so
what would go in there?
So think about Hudson's parcels in their downtown district are small. I believe they have public water though, which is why they're able to do that. Yeah. Even again, the public water is the issue. So if you look to West Acton Village, West Concord, the parcels are small, but they have water, but
they're big. But the overall parcel is big. It's like West Acton Center is that's a good comparison, but they just have so much more land to do small developments on, right? Like that little village in West Acton Center is great. I was just there at the fish market the other week. But like with this, we've got, you know, what, 4 properties that could be developed, and there's just no more. So I mean, it'd be nice to have an all-encompassing district, but it's like, it's just, we're limited by how much space is there.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, to be continued.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we can have the consultant possibly meet with the board early on to kind of get a sense of you know, the history of zoning in the town, but also, you know, what the board is faced with at this point, you know, multiple rezoning requests and you know, the 21% vacancy rate in our commercial districts, and you know, the joining of housing and economic development, which is generally good, but is removing land from the commercial district. So, you know, I'm hoping that process can give us a little bit more insight into kind of how to move forward.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I'm worried about, is we have so little business zone land, and to give it up to a residential, I mean, I really want to be sure before we give it up that there really was no option, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what they have in their development, I mean, it looks really great. It'd be nice to get some business, but, you know, are we losing out by, you know, cutting our losses and running without even fully, you know, researching what can go there?
Right, and just because retail is very soft now, I mean, is it going to be that in, you know, 5 years, or 3 years, or, you know,
it's a good point.
Or is it going to be worse? You know?
Yeah. I think, like, you know, maybe like goods that are going out, but I mean, if you have more like an entertainment, you know, eatery type retail space, you know, like a Vin Bin and you know, those type of things, a cafe, you know, that type of stuff, you know, it could work, and it is a trafficked area.
A Vin Bin.
Especially in walking distance, Danielle.
Oh yeah.
You can get lost on the trails.
Absolutely. Technically, I could walk to Diagonal, so you just got to go through the woods.
But like, I mean, I'd be scared, you know, I'm not scared, but I really want to be sure that, you know, before we go the route that Habitat wants, is that we can't do anything else. And so I think these analyses are a good thing.
Well, and the question is, you know, is it, you know, do we have to pull the trigger right now? I mean, if
I mean, basically, for this year's town's meeting, we have to have bylaws submitted in, like, what, February? So I mean, like, we have to make a decision like now.
Yeah.
Well, we have a little bit of time. We have some time to do a little bit.
A couple of months, but that's not very much time.
No, I know it's definitely tight, but
yeah.
So, all right.
Okay.
All right. I'll make one more note before we all go. If you have any feedback for me on the discussion with CME, please just send me an email. I am more than happy to put together follow-up questions for town council, try to figure out what our options are.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it sounds like the residents want this as well as we want to, is just what is the step-by-step process we would need to pull the bond at the next town meeting, and how are the other items that aren't associated with the road construction dealt with, knowing that they're outside of construction.
Right. I mean, that was my point when I, you know, like, I mean, we got to assume that Andy is never going to pay the affordable, and he's never going to pay his taxes. So how do we move forward from that point?
That's what we need town council to advise us on.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's just assume that he's never going to pay him. He'll go to jail before he pays him, in my opinion. So we got to figure out how to not continue. Like, how can we help out these residents? It's really
that's what we need. We need town council to tell us what we can.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, I think that he is doing the minimum to avoid saying that he has walked.
Yeah.
So because
what has he done this summer? What's he done in the last? Yeah.
So I think that technically he has not, but he could say that he has, allowed other homes to be constructed. Like there are still homes under construction currently. So because there is work done on the land, he might be able to say that he has had a hand in that.
I would say let's not even go down this road. Let's not make us. This is an attorney that we need to kind of review this, and we don't need to make judgment there. So
it is concerning.
Yeah, I mean that, and then I know a lot of, or some or all of phase one is already has liens against it. I don't know what else we can do there to for the to try to lock in the affordable piece of it.
I will ask council if we can put additional liens on the properties.
Yeah.
And
just try to ask if there's any way to like I said, decouple things, that if we could isolate out the affordable and the taxes, so we can just move forward with getting the list of things that need to be done, and just close out the road. And I don't know if somehow we can just have 1 and 3 be leaned in. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm as far from a lawyer as you can get. But
Eric, just put all your questions to Valerie, and she can ask them to town council, and we can see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Isn't the motion the little red button in the corner?
I think technically we want a motion before we do that, but
motion to adjourn.
One second.
All right, and those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Have a good Thanksgiving. We'll see you in a month.
Yes.